Championship record time.
Time out.
Half time. Added on time.
World record time. Injury time.
Full time. For comprehensive sports coverage.
There are only two times that matter.
15 minutes past and 15 minutes to the hour.
BBC News 24's up-to-the-minute sports bulletins.
You're watching BBC News 24 with Valerie Sanderson and Chris Eakin. We'll be back in central London and looking down on central London for the May Day protests in just a couple of minutes' time.
Well, let's look at the main news headlines with the time at 29 minutes to 3. It's been announced that the conjoined twins born in London on Monday won't be separated. The decision came after doctors said the chance of a successful outcome for Courtney and Natasha Smith was very slim. Doctors at Great Ormond Street Hospital say they'll review the situation in a few months' time if the twins survive that long. The May Day protests in central London have so far passed off without any clashes or violence. There have been no arrests so far. 6,000 police officers have been deployed on the streets of the capital following warnings that a hardcore was planning violent protests. Meanwhile, an estimated 10,000 people are taking part in the official TUC march, which got underway from Clerkenwell. The march will make its way to Trafalgar Square for the traditional May Day rally. Among the speakers are union leaders and the former Labour MP, Tony Benn. The Home Secretary, David Blunkett, says the police operation has, so far, been a success.
It's very good indeed. The preparation has been excellent. The Met have learnt over recent years the necessary expertise, and they're putting it into practice today, and I can only appeal to those who are on the streets, some of them peacefully in the TUC demonstration, some of them who are part of the anarchist group, literally to behave themselves in order not to cause mayhem and all the disorder and difficulty that would bring.
Meanwhile, police in France say that 500,000 protesters have turned out to demonstrate against the presidential candidate Jean-Marie Le Pen. In Paris, the National Front have been holding their own rally in honour of Joan of Arc. 3,500 riot police have been drafted into the capital to deal with potential trouble. The city's police chief has warned his officers will act firmly against any disturbances. A Turkish soccer fan has been given 15 years in jail for the killing of 2 Leeds soccer fans. Ali Umit Demir has already been in prison for 2 years, and his lawyers say they're confident he'll serve a much shorter sentence. Kevin Spate and Christopher Loftus were stabbed to death almost 2 years ago in a street fight between Galatasaray and Leeds fans on the eve of a UEFA Cup match. 4 other Turkish fans were each sentenced to 3 months for their involvement in fighting, which resulted in the deaths. The Queen is in Cornwall at the start of her Golden Jubilee tour of Britain. After naming a new lifeboat in Falmouth this morning, she moved on to Truro, where she went on a walkabout in the city centre among hundreds of school children. She's spending the first 2 days of her tour in the southwest, where farming and the tourist trade have been badly hit by last year's foot and mouth outbreak. The chairman of York City says he's planning to launch a bid for ITV Digital, which stopped broadcasting all of its pay TV channels at 7 o'clock this morning. The administrators running the failed company pulled the plug after no buyers emerged. John Batchelor of York City told the BBC he had backing from people in the motorsports industry and the city for a proposal which would keep digital terrestrial television on air. Firefighters in Texas are battling a major blaze at a petrochemical works. The fires were reported to have started after a series of explosions in an industrial area near the town of Pearland. Eyewitnesses are reporting flames rising more than 300 feet into the air. 100 people have been moved from the area. Fire crews say they're having difficulty fighting the blaze because of a shortage of water.
Oh, that's
those are the headlines there.
Just to quickly remind people that we'll be going into central London shortly, just to see the latest activity with the May Day protests. There's just been a sort of minor sit-down protest at Piccadilly Circus, but it was all fairly peaceful and over quite quickly. We'll be at Trafalgar Square shortly, where the TUC demonstration has just arrived there.
Other news, British and US officials are reported to be holding talks with the Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat to finalise a deal that would end Israel's month-long siege of his headquarters in Ramallah on the West Bank. The envoys are discussing the transfer of 6 prisoners wanted by Israel to a prison in Jericho, where they'll be guarded by American and British wardens. Well, I'm joined now by our correspondent Stephen Gibbs in Jerusalem. What else do we know, Stephen?
Well, what we know is that the deal is not quite sealed yet. There is contact, as you say, going between British and American officials and the Palestinians and the Israelis. The proposed deal, as you put it, which is correct, is that the 6 prisoners that are inside Ramallah, inside the compound with Yasser Arafat, they will be transferred to a prison in Jericho where British and American prison wardens will oversee their captivity. The plan is after that has happened, Israeli tanks will pull back from the Ramallah compound, and then Yasser Arafat presumably will be free to go wherever he wants. The sticking point at the moment appears to be details about the prison, that perhaps British, American and Israeli officials aren't happy about the security of that prison in Jericho, so that seems to be holding things up at the moment. But all sides seem to be promising that within a few hours it will all go ahead, and Yasser Arafat shortly after that will be free to go.
Now, of course, this was alluded to, I think, by the US Secretary of State, Colin Powell. What do we know about the 6 men involved?
Well, 4 of them are held responsible for the assassination of the Israeli tourism minister. Another man is held responsible for an arms shipment, an illegal arms shipment that was intercepted near Eilat in the south of Israel. Another man is held responsible with financing the assassination plot or successful assassination of the tourism minister. So there are a collection of people that Israel initially said had to be trialled within Israel. So there's been a bit of a back down, a bit of a climb down in a way here on the part of the Israelis, that they're saying that, okay, they won't be tried in Israel, they will accept they've been tried by the Palestinians, but they will be kept in custody by British and American officials.
How important is this as a breakthrough? Because what we keep hearing are the Israelis are intransigent on so many other issues. I'm thinking particularly of the UN fact-finding tour going into the Palestinian refugee camp Jenin. Is there any movement on that?
There's absolutely no movement at all on the fact-finding mission to Jenin. Israel is pretty adamant that it's not going to let it happen unless it happens on its terms. And specifically, they're very worried that if this UN fact-finding team did arrive here without an agreement beforehand with the Israelis, the UN could start subpoenaing various Israeli soldiers to appear before that, and the Israelis feel that would be bad for their morale and a bad precedent to set. There is some suspicion, I should say, that there's been some sort of trade-off here, that the US may have put pressure on the UN to back down a bit on the Jenin issue in order to put more pressure on Ramallah so that Yasser Arafat can go free. There's lots of behind-the-scenes deals going on here, and it's very difficult to know exactly what the end outcome will be.
Well, as you were saying as well, lots of strands to it as well as Ramallah and Jenin. There's also the siege of the Church of the Nativity. Something like 36 people came out yesterday. Are any more going to come out? How many are still holed up there?
Well, the estimate is that there are about 200 in there, and crucially inside there are the 30 militants that Israel wants. The various people that have come out, including, as you say, the big group that came out yesterday, they've been civilians or Palestinian security officials. The key people that Israel wants either out and on trial in Israel or exiled out of Israel forever are 30 Palestinian militants, and there's really no sign yet that the Palestinians or the Israelis are going to back down on their positions on that one.
Stephen Gibbs, thank you.
Right, straight to